First up right now, and new tonight at 5:30 as Connecticut students start the new school year, teachers and union leaders asking lawmakers to fund education. Federal cuts could really impact students, and some say the way to fix that is to raise taxes. Your chief political reporter Susan Raff is showing us what the plan is, plus some reaction.
These federal cuts would affect all schools, not just K through 12, but also higher education. And some teachers and Democrats say we should either use the rainy day fund or tax the rich.
This quibble and quabbling over what amount we should invest is ridiculous. It is needed.
Connecticut teachers say lawmakers need to step up. If federal cuts prevent children from getting a good education, they say the state must have a plan in place.
We want to urge the governor to take immediate action without delay in a special legislative session.
The AFL-CIO is sending a letter to Governor Lamont on behalf of all unionized teachers, calling to fund the futures of our students. They say federal cuts and insufficient state funding could put some children even further behind. Earlier this year, Senate Democrats endorsed a plan to raise taxes on the wealthiest in the state to help pay for education.
What we really need is a funding source far into the future. And to do that, I believe we need to go with something like Senator Looney and Senator Duff's suggestion that we do an increase on our most wealthy people.
There's a lot of unpredictability coming from Washington. Governor Lamont says Connecticut needs to know what the final impact will be. And at this time, the governor's preference is increasing the number of taxpayers in our state rather than increasing taxes. Republican leaders are blasting this plan. Senator Harding says Connecticut Senate Republicans remain opposed to tax hikes, and we oppose dismantling the bipartisan fiscal guardrails, which will lead to even higher taxes. There are plans for a special session because lawmakers have to deal with other federal cuts to things like Medicaid and also health care. That special session could be either late September or early October. President Trump, Democrats say, is now giving tax breaks to some of the wealthiest, and they feel it's only fitting that those people pay a little more for education. Your chief political reporter, Susan Raff, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.
School starts